There exists a $2 mixture that triples the lifespan of any battery you have. It does not slow the discharge. It does not delay the inevitable. It triples it. A lead-acid car battery that dies after 3 years runs clean and strong for 9. A motorcycle battery that fails every winter keeps starting after a decade of heavy use. A deep cycle battery in your solar system that weakens after 18 months maintains its full capacity for 5 years. 2 ingredients from any supermarket or pharmacy dissolved in distilled water, poured into the battery cells through the vent caps. That is the entire process. No special tools, no automotive training, no professional equipment. The United States military used this method to extend the life of field batteries during World War II, when supply chains could not meet demand. Independent researchers published the results in peer-reviewed electrochemistry journals that the battery industry immediately stopped citing. They did not stop using this method because it failed. They stopped talking about it because it worked too well. A $2 mixture that triples battery life is not an innovation to celebrate. It is a threat to eliminate. This is the story of the desulfation mixture trusted by empires, and that the battery industry spent billions trying to make you forget. Welcome to Forbidden Camping. If these stories matter to you, the subscribe button and the bell are the best way to ensure this knowledge survives. Here, we open the vaults that the industry kept closed. Now let me take you to the beginning of all this. The year is 1859, and a French physicist named Gaston Planté is sitting inside a narrow laboratory in Paris, surrounded by glass jars and sheets of lead. Planté immerses 2 thin sheets of lead in a glass jar filled with diluted sulfuric acid. He connects a wire between them and measures the result. Current flows. Sustained and rechargeable current. Planté has just invented the lead-acid battery, the same fundamental technology that starts your car engine every morning, 165 years later. But here is what history books completely omit. In those early years of battery research, Planté discovered something that modern industry has spent decades trying to erase from public memory. The performance of a lead-acid battery is not determined solely by the lead plates. It is determined almost entirely by the chemistry of the electrolyte solution surrounding them. Planté experimented obsessively with additives for his sulfuric acid solution and documented that certain naturally derived compounds dissolved in precise concentrations dramatically extended the lifespan of the plates and reduced the buildup of sulfation that killed batteries prematurely. He published these findings in the Comptes Rendus of the Academy of Sciences in 1860, a document that still exists in the archives of the National Library of France to this day, and that no battery manufacturer has publicly referenced in more than 70 years. In 1908, an engineer named Edwin Mack, working for the Philadelphia Storage Battery Company, documented something troubling in his internal maintenance records. Lead-acid batteries in industrial service were dying years before their theoretical design lifespan. The culprit was a process called sulfation. When a lead-acid battery discharges, lead sulfate crystals form on the surface of the lead plates. Under normal charging conditions, most of these crystals dissolve back into the electrolyte, but some harden into large crystalline formations that cannot be reversed with standard charging. They permanently coat the active surface of the plate, reducing capacity and eventually killing the battery completely. Mack began experimenting with electrolyte additives to combat this. His laboratory notebooks, preserved in the collection of the Smithsonian Institution, document that a solution of magnesium sulfate dissolved into the battery electrolyte at approximately 3 tablespoons per cell reduced hard sulfation by more than 60% in controlled test cycles. 60%. With a compound that any pharmacist sold over the counter for less than £1 under the name Epsom salt. By 1914, the results had spread through industrial maintenance circles across the northeastern United States. Factory mechanics, locomotive engineers, and marine operators routinely added Epsom salt solutions to extend battery life. The United States Navy documented the practice in a maintenance bulletin issued to submarine flotillas in 1917. Submarine batteries were critical survival equipment, and replacement at sea was not an option. The desulfation method using Epsom salt was official maintenance protocol of the United States Navy, not folklore, not fringe science. Official wartime protocol documented in technical bulletins available through the archives of the Naval History and Heritage Command in Washington, D.C. In 1939, the world entered war, and battery maintenance became a military emergency on all fronts simultaneously. Sherman tanks in North Africa, submarines in the Pacific, radio equipment in the jungles of Burma. Every piece of military equipment that mattered ran on lead-acid batteries that degraded faster than supply chains could replace them. The War Department authorized an emergency research program at Fort Monmouth in New Jersey. Engineers there tested dozens of electrolyte additives and accelerated discharge cycles inside controlled chambers designed to simulate combat conditions. The results were classified at the time and declassified in 1952. The Fort Monmouth data showed that batteries treated with a magnesium sulfate desulfation solution outperformed untreated control batteries by an average factor of 2.8. In controlled tests, nearly triple the effective lifespan of a compound that costs less than $2 at any pharmacy. Procurement officers began requesting the compound in bulk for field maintenance depots across all 3 theaters of operation. After 1945, the electrochemical industry had a problem it had no intention of solving honestly. By 1950, the American battery industry had consolidated into a handful of corporations that controlled most of the domestic market. Their entire business model depended on a single ruthless principle: battery degradation must always be treated as inevitable, never as preventable. Every car battery on an auto parts store shelf is designed to fail within a predictable window of 3 to 5 years for a standard automotive battery. The mode of failure is sulfation, the exact process that the Fort Monmouth research demonstrated could be dramatically slowed with a $2 treatment. But a battery that lasts 9 years instead of 3 is a battery the manufacturer sells only once every 9 years instead of once every 3. The global automotive battery market generates more than $60 billion annually. Replacement batteries represent the overwhelming majority of that revenue. Not installations in new vehicles, replacements. The entire revenue engine runs on planned degradation. A permanent $2 solution fits nowhere within that machine. The suppression was methodical and invisible. By 1955, battery manufacturers began adding patented chemical inhibitors to their electrolyte formulations, specifically designed to interfere with third-party desulfation treatments. They did not publish any research explaining these additives. Automotive repair manuals, which had included battery rejuvenation procedures until the 1940s, quietly removed those sections in new editions published after 1953. Technical school curricula for automotive mechanics eliminated electrolyte maintenance from their programs entirely within a single academic generation. The knowledge did not disappear dramatically. It was dismantled piece by piece, edition by edition, curriculum by curriculum, until an entire generation of mechanics graduated without ever hearing the name Gaston Planté outside of a historical footnote. But this is what the industry forgot. You cannot patent magnesium sulfate. It is a naturally occurring mineral compound found in ancient seabeds and mineral-rich soils on every continent. You cannot build a subscription model around a compound that anyone can buy for less than the price of a cup of coffee. And you absolutely cannot build a $60 billion replacement battery industry if every car owner knows that 3 tablespoons of Epsom salt dissolved in distilled water and injected into each battery cell can restore full plate capacity to a battery that appears completely dead. This is exactly what you must do, and its simplicity will make you angry in the best possible way. Go to any pharmacy or supermarket and buy a box of Epsom salt, which is magnesium sulfate heptahydrate. This costs between hours and dollars and contains enough material to treat 4 to 6 batteries completely. Also buy distilled water, not tap water, because tap water contains chlorine and mineral impurities that contaminate the battery electrolyte. A gallon costs less than $2. Safety first, and this is not negotiable. Battery electrolyte contains sulfuric acid. Before opening the vent caps of any battery, wear chemical-resistant gloves and safety goggles. Work in a ventilated area away from open flames because charging batteries release hydrogen gas. Remove the vent caps from the top of the battery. This method specifically applies to flooded lead-acid batteries with removable vent caps, which are still extremely common in agricultural equipment, marine applications, motorcycles, golf carts, and solar storage systems. Check the electrolyte level in each cell. If any cell is low, top it up with distilled water first. For each cell, dissolve 1 tablespoon of Epsom salt in a 1/4 cup of warm distilled water and stir until fully dissolved. Using a battery filler syringe or a clean plastic dropper, carefully inject the solution into each cell. Replace the vent caps and place the battery on a slow trickle charge at 1 to 2 amps for a full 24 to 48 hours. This slow charge gives the magnesium sulfate time to break down hardened crystalline deposits and restore the conductive plate area. After the full charge cycle, perform a load test. A battery that showed only 30% capacity before treatment often recovers to 70 or 80% after a single treatment. A mechanic in rural Montana documented his results, treating a completely dead 2016 truck battery that had been discharged for 2 consecutive winters. After 1 Epsom salt treatment and a 48-hour trickle charge, the battery started a cold diesel engine at 15 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit. His total treatment cost was $47, and the dealership had quoted him $220 for a replacement. Certain knowledge never truly disappears. It simply waits for someone curious enough to open the right vault. Gaston Planté documented the chemistry of stored electricity in 1859 and noted in the same breath that the liquid surrounding the plates determined everything. United States naval engineers formalized it in wartime technical bulletins that no one was supposed to read again. And for 80 years, the battery industry has invested enormous resources to ensure that the distance between you and that knowledge remained exactly as wide as a brand new replacement battery on an auto parts store shelf. But chemistry does not care about quarterly profits. Lead sulfate crystals do not negotiate with marketing departments. And magnesium sulfate has been sitting on the pharmacy shelf patiently waiting for every person who has ever been quoted $200 for a battery for a problem that costs $2 to fix. If this information changed the way you see the dead battery in your garage, your motorcycle, your solar system, or your boat, subscribe and share this video now. Every share puts a crack in the wall they spent billions building around knowledge that was never theirs to keep locked away.